Hi, my name's Glitchon and I'm a writer and researcher in this community, and you may recognise several posts of mine over the past year, including various dismissals of rumours on Twitter or my little YouTube channel. For the past while, I have been fascinated by the Sodor story collection and the various released products. With the help of the generous Ian McHugh, I have compiled a video covering the entire history of the Sodor story collection, including a few little never seen before behind the scenes pieces being revealed along the way. The Sodor Story Collection was a rather short-lived sub-series of the much-beloved Wooden Railway line, which came with a short book and a set that could be used to reenact the events that occur. Over 2 years, 7 products would be released, 4 of which centering around characters who, at the time of the release, were exclusive to this line: Logan, Sam, and Dustin. Although, there were discussions around a 4th character, but we'll get back to that. You're going to want to stick around. Before the Sodor Story Collection, which we will further refer to as the SCC, was established, the brand and product team was handed the direct-to-consumer initiative, which is a business model that sells products directly to the consumer, much like the American Gold Law brand does. These are mostly based online, therefore cuts out the middleman between customer and manufacturer. You may be familiar with the other works of this initiative, the My Custom Engine series and the My Story Library book packs. However, this team was not originally in production alliance with the Thomas production team. As stated by Ian McHugh, the DTC team started development on the first product, Logan and the Big Blue engines, without any involvement from the production team, and they were all pretty horrified. This first release hit sites in 2014 and was incredibly mediocre. The book featured a brand new character, Logan, who was bright blue and yellow, using a prototype face and had his name placed on his side, which his CGI recreation had omitted. The set includes him, Gordon, an exclusive coach, 2 small trucks, and Knapford Station. You could also simply buy Logan, a small truck, and his book. There was also an accessory pack featuring the Bubblesome trucks and a track pack. This story takes place during a talent show, where all the engines have special jobs to do. Gordon has to collect the brass band, while Edward needs to collect some bubble fluid for Mr. Bubbles. While the 2 engines are filling up on coal, Logan, being both new to Sodor and rather impatient, cannot tell Edward and Gordon apart, giving them the wrong jobs. He only finds this out by trying to talk to Gordon and seeing Edward's face on the other line. Logan soon makes things right, learns the value of patience, and returns to the coal mines a new engine. Alongside this, a promotional video titled "Welcome to Sodor Logan" was released, specifying many of his marketable traits, such as his appearance of being like a diesel, which is essentially what the entire video is about actually. He looks a little bit like Den, a little bit like Dart, and a little bit like Salty, but he has a funnel, so he is a steam engine. As I stated before, the Thomas production team was not a fan of this approach, likely due to the clearly merchandise-focused, toy-like colour scheme featured on Logan's design, alongside that horrific facial design.
Hello.
And from then on, both production teams aligned in the development of these products. Logan's promotional video was actually created in retrospect by the Thomas team, due to the aforementioned fact that it was created without their knowledge. Later that same year, the book James Sorts It Out was released, which included James, Colin, Victor, and Kevin, alongside the Sodor Steamworks. However, the book set includes a special Charlie who has a billboard upon his smokebox. You could even purchase an accessory pack that featured Diesel on a hazard sign, although Diesel never appeared in the original story, and a track pack. In this book, a storm has hit Sodor and destroyed the Ballyhoo Bridge. Meanwhile, a movie billboard has gone missing. James decides to pitch in and help out, which brings him to the wharf to collect paint from Colin, who was rather shaky and ends up dropping it all over him. James goes to the steamworks, where he sees that Emily and Henry are both being repaired at the same time, and just then, Charlie races in with a billboard stuck to his smokebox, explaining that Colin dropped that on him. While Kevin pries the billboard off, he sends it flying towards the workmen that are working on Emily, and, in response, Charlie races ahead and blocks the hit, smashing the billboard. Victor suggests that as Colin has been dropping many things, he may need repairs, so James picks up some oil and brings it to him. Colin is quite worried that James would be upset, but all is well in the end. Now, unfortunately, not all of the books in this series have been well documented. Our next two stories unfortunately lack much online presence. The first, Percy and the Little Goat, released in 2014, has only seemingly been preserved by a few YouTube reviews of the pack. This pack included Percy, a small truck with a grain load, an animal truck, Harold, his helipad, and, of course, the aforementioned Little Goat. You could also just buy the book set with an animal truck and a small van. It was also possible to purchase an accessory pack which featured 3 zoo trucks, with a hippo, tiger, and gorilla, alongside a track pack. And it was even possible to buy Harold and his helipad separately. From all available resources, it seems that in this story, Percy takes a baby mountain goat from the animal park around the mountains, only to lose it on the way. He tries his hardest to find him, and soon he is returned to the Sodor Animal Park safe and sound. Our final 2014 release, Thomas's Birthday Surprise, is even less documented. The only plot that I can gather comes from a Reddit post on r/Thomas Wooden Railway by user Independence Day 356, where they recreated the set and vaguely mentioned the plot at the end. One of the sets was named Thomas's Birthday Surprise, and it was basically Thomas trying to bake a cake with a fat controller. And from both merchandise and further references, it can be assumed that he runs into trouble gathering the ingredients. This book came packed with Explatter Thomas, Celebration Winston, a red truck, a milk tanker, and many destinations based around cake ingredients. You could also simply buy an Explatter Percy with a small truck pack alongside the book. There was also the option of purchasing an accessory pack, which included a birthday celebration Toby, a pleasant truck, and a birthday sign. And, of course, there was a track pack too. As these two stories lack documentation, treat this video as a plea to perhaps try and surface these stories, not only to see how close these assumptions are, but to also get them documented, because no Thomas fan likes lost media. In 2015, we finally received a set based around a new character, Sam and the Great Bell. This story introduces us to Sam, a big engine from the Virginia Railway who arrived on Sodor to assist in the development of a railway exhibit at the Sodor Museum. A big thank you to Epic Lafito for uploading these pictures into a drive. Thomas and Percy are told to show Sam around the island of Sodor for him to do his work well, and in an attempt to make them both look really useful in front of Sam, they decide to split up so they will get the jobs done on time. Thomas and Sam will go to the quarry for stone and the steamworks of the new rails, and Percy will get sleepers from the lumber yard and a great big bell from the ironworks. While doing their jobs, Sam tells Thomas all about his adventures on the Virginian Railway, and then surprises him by showing him just how much he could pull. But when they get back to the water tower, Percy is nowhere to be found. They race towards the ironworks where Ari and Bert are unaware of Percy's whereabouts, only to hear Percy in the canyon not too far away. The weight of the bell had dragged him in. Sam springs into action, attaching a chain to Percy and pulling him out. Then, wheel turn by wheel turn, he manages to rescue the bell too. It's very late by the time the engines return to the museum, but they soon do, and Percy is checked over and given a washdown. But when Rocky tries to lift the bell, he nearly drops it on Percy. It's clear that he is not strong enough. Only Sam is. Cables are attached to Sam and the bell, and with all his strength, he pulls the bell up high and into place. For his bravery and hard work, Sam is given the honour of leading the first visitors into the new exhibit. It was truly a celebration that nobody would forget. This set released with Sam, Muddy Percy, a small truck, the bell tower, and a shiny magnetic bell. You could also simply buy the book and Sam alone. An accessory pack was released with a decorated Thomas and a fireworks van, alongside a track pack. Now, this release was also accompanied by multiple short videos on the official Thomas YouTube channel, the first of which being Welcome to the Island of Sodor Sam. This video details his sheer strength, stating that he can pull the heaviest loads, stating that he is bigger than Gordon, bigger than Hero, and even bigger than Connor. He's 4 trucks long, which makes him the length of 4 Thomases. While Sodor may seem small to him, his big heart makes sure that he can be really useful. The second video, Meet Sam, shows just how strong he is. He's pulling more trucks than Thomas can count, full of supplies from the mainland. Sam asks Thomas to guide him to the museum, and they have a very short discussion during this. Sam's big heart is shown off when he says that everyone is a really useful engine and that everyone has their own strength. The final video posted is named A Friendly Farewell, which features both Sam and Logan saying goodbye to their new friends, including flashbacks to their books, namely when Logan had to chase down Gordon in the bubblesome trucks, and when Sam lifted the bell up with his mighty strength. While Thomas, Percy and Edward are sad to see their friends go, they are fully aware that they would always have each other, no matter what. That aged well. Sam is the only character that made it into the television series, finding his way into a small scene in Big World Big Adventures when Thomas travels to America. He never reappeared before or after this, due to the fact that he was far too long to work on the Sodor Railway, so the shorts cheated to make him work, which wouldn't be sustainable for the actual show. This can be seen in his never-before-seen orthographic images, where he is much taller than Thomas, which poses a threat for the pre-established height of locations. Can you imagine him going through Henry's Tunnel? And this is where things become peculiar. There were 2 releases this year. Dustin comes in first, being the first. This set came with Thomas, Dustin, a red truck and a snowy mountain. This was the final release to be accompanied by a full set. Of course you could simply purchase Dustin and his book alone, or you could purchase the accessory pack with the Blizzard search and rescue trucks. And I'm sorry to say, there was no track pack. In this book, a blizzard has hit Sodor, and although they may have their snowplows, the engines find it incredibly hard to keep up, so Topham Hatt brings Dustin in to help clear the island, before he ends up in a shed at the end of the day, ready to rest. While summer ends, everyone on Sodor is preparing for the fall festival, which features an engine race for charity. Thomas wants Dustin to pitch in with a workload, so he tells him that there's a sugar tanker due around the ice cream factory. However, as he returns to clear it, the sugar grains get stuck in his fan and he becomes pretty sticky. He returns to his shed in quite the upset manner. A few weeks later, Thomas is asked by Sir Topham Hatt to shunt trucks of apples from the vicarage orchard, and he wants Dustin to help too, who is rather uneasy due to the quite obvious fact that he lacks buffers. Dustin tries to shunt a truck but accidentally crashes a load with his fan. Ashamed, he refuses to partake in the charity race and resigns to his shed, not intending to come out until the winter. But that night, a harsh storm hits Sodor and the route for the race is in a terrible mess. Thomas comes to Dustin's shed and tells him that the tracks need to be cleared for the race, so Dustin clears the line but stops just before the finish. Adamant, Sir Topham Hatt urges Dustin to roll across, and he does. He wins first place for not only clearing the storm debris, but also for finishing the race first. Right, we know where this is going. This release was intended to be paired with 4 short videos about Dustin. However, for 9 years they were left in the Mattel archives, gathering dust as Ian McHugh pushed for their release, which finally happened from the 20th of November 2025 to the 11th of December of the same year. The first video, A Legend is Coming to Sodor, talks all about how high in the mountains there is an engine like no other. An engine of legend, you could say. An engine that eats up all the snow in its path, protecting the people in the mountains and shows no fear. And now, this legend is coming to Sodor. The second video, Meet Dustin the Snowplow, tells us that high in the mountains, the snow can pile up to be higher than a person and even higher than an engine. The people in the mountains need a really unique and useful engine, Dustin. Dustin is a powerful snow removing machine whose spinning rotary blades cut through the snow, sucking it up and spraying it high into the air. When Sodor finds out about this, he becomes an instant legend. So when heavy snow covers Sodor, the Fat Controller knows there is only one really useful engine for the job, Dustin. The third video released soon after, titled Learn All About Dustin the Snowplow Engine, which goes into detail about how the snow on Sodor can be too high for the engines and their little plows, so special engines are needed to clear the tracks. Engines, like Dustin. This gets repetitive. We get details into his design. His large rotary blades at the front cut through the thick, deep snow. His rotary plough is driven by a powerful motor, cutting snow as high as an engine. It picks up the snow and shoots out of a chute. Great wording. Which can be positioned to spray in different directions. Dustin is a rather useful and unique engine, so whenever there are heavy snowstorms on the way, remember to call on Dustin. Finally, the last video was released, Dustin Helps Thomas and Friends, which is very similar to A Friendly Farewell, in which it recaps the book's events and talks about how the engine is sad to see Dustin go. We get some very fun recreations of the books, and are left on a little bit of a high note as Dustin leaps the mountains. Hopefully, they will see him again soon. I mean, if Flynn survived 2026. A sequel of Dustin's book was released later that year, Dustin and the Sodor Snow Team. This is an oddity as it does not actually come with a set, simply a destination for the weather station, with a snowy Diesel. Interestingly enough, it was originally intended to release with a snowy Percy, even though he doesn't actually appear in the story. I thank Train King James for the faithful adaptation that we will use as a basis, as I only have access to a few pages of this book and all the dialogue matches up. Fall is coming to an end, and with winter on the way, Sodor knows that they need to prepare for the bad weather. As Dustin had saved the fall charity race, Sodor puts him in charge of building the weather station for the Sodor Search and Rescue Centre, complete with a special dish to alert the team when storms are on the way. Soon the construction of the new weather station is underway with help from Thomas and the Sodor rescue team. But Dustin isn't satisfied. He believes that everyone should know what to do when a storm hits. The dish can't exactly teach engine to push through snow and slide along icy rails, but he sure can. Thomas, eager to help his friend, leaves to find engines for Dustin to train. He finds James and Diesel at the docks, eager to recruit them to the team. At first, James refuses to join. However, when Thomas explains that it is very important, he obliges and joins. Diesel doesn't want to help. He doesn't want Dustin to boss him around. Thomas claims that steam engines are better in bad weather, and Diesel insists that diesels can do anything better than a steam engine can, so he joins. The three engines find Dustin and Belle at Gordon's Hill, and Dustin begins their training, getting them to push trucks up the steep hill with sand blowing into their faces, being a stand-in for snow, obviously. Back at the weather station, Dustin has set up a training course, making the rails slick with oil and sand before telling the engines they need to practice pulling heavy, troublesome trucks of salt. James doesn't want to pull trucks of salt, as it may damage his splendid red paint, and Diesel teases him in his pretty paintwork, before claiming that if a steam engine can't do the job, a diesel certainly can. Diesel is so eager to upstage James that he ignores Dustin's warning about the rails being slick, and he races over them. The trucks topple over and into the weather station. The impact had caused the dish to move out of place, but nobody noticed. Soon the engines are back at work again and begin to question their skills, but Dustin offers words of encouragement, telling them that if they follow his directions it'll all be okay and they'll be really useful engines. And then the engines finally realise that they need to listen to Dustin, and they work even harder. And when he left, Dustin felt ever so proud of his team. That evening, as Dustin rested in his shed, he watched a single snowflake tumble down from the sky, followed by another, and then another, before it started to snow heavily. Dustin is shocked. The dish hadn't warned him about any snow. He races to the weather station where he finds Belle and Flynn, where they realise what Diesel's accident had caused. Dustin doesn't think that his team is ready yet, but after assurance from Belle and Flynn, the engines are rounded up by them both, the way being lit by Harold. After the team is assembled, they are fitted with snowplows to clear the tracks. Belle collects a troublesome truck and a spotlight so that she can see where she delivered the salt. Thanks to Dustin's training, the engines carefully make their way along the slick, icy rails, plowing snow from the tracks and making the railway safe again. After the storm passes, Sodor thanks the engines as even though the warning system didn't tell them about the snow, they still did an excellent job of keeping the railway running. They tell him that Dustin was the one to train them, but he humbly refuses to take all the credit, thanking the engines for not quitting when the job got difficult. But they work together as a team. A new satellite is soon fitted, and with the team ready for action, Sodor's railway is always ready for whatever winter has in store. Dustin's CGI model, as seen in these orthographic sheets that I can reveal, shared the issue that Sam's had. His model was enormous. He wouldn't be able to fit through the tunnels or over bridges, therefore he would be a right pain to animate. It's a real shame, honestly. He's a fascinating design and I really enjoy his character. Something to note is that it has been explicitly stated that the locations in these stories, even if they were shown in CGI, are considered to be storybook locations and were not fit for the real Sodor. In other words, they are not intended to be taken as extensions to the television series, and if you believe there's a canon, it's not canon. Now, I alluded to something interesting in the first segment of this video. I mentioned a fourth character. After Dustin's development, the production team began to discuss a fourth character, one that would have been based on a Canadian compressed steam loco. Liam. Now, these discussions never got too far, but according to Ian McHugh, his pitch was for him to work in the mines. It can be assumed that due to the poor sales of the DTC merchandise causing the initiative to disband, Liam was scrapped pretty early on. The basics proposal is very interesting, as the team were trying to choose designs that would not fit in within the world of Sodor. The face is ridiculously sized, as is the entire build, but who knows how they would have dealt with that. For a little idea of how he may have looked, Thomas OJ07 has thrown together a mock-up of our own interpretation of it. However, this is obviously our own take. He looks so ridiculous. The Sodor story collection was definitely a leap of faith on the production team's part. I can definitely see why it was considered, as a direct-to-consumer was an initiative that was growing in popularity around this time. However, it did ultimately end up falling into obscurity. But hey, at least we got some fun characters, and a fourth dropped one. Before this video wraps, I sincerely request that you do not pester crew members about today's reveals. All information is presented here. You must remember that these crew members are people too, and hounding them for information is a horrible thing to do. So, please take care, and I will hopefully speak to you soon. I would like to offer a special thanks to Trainboy9705, Ian McHugh, Chase Steed, Special Trees, Epic Lapito for the Sam scans, Train Kid James for the Dustin adaptation, Thomas OJ07, Shavo, and Maypop. I have been waiting so long to work on this video, and I'm so glad to finally be able to get it out to you. Please take care, and as I said earlier, I'll speak to you soon, hopefully.